Thanks, everybody. So it's fantastic to see you all. Sorry, started a little bit late, but going to try and do some streaming from the Oculus, and of course, it didn't work. So managed to get that sorted. So fingers crossed when we actually get to that point. So thanks for coming to the talk. It's Expanding the Dance Floor, Reinventing Just Dance for VR. So my name's James Horn. I'm sort of creative lead and project director at Soul Assembly. We're a game studio based in Leamington Spa in the UK. We've been going for around about 3.5 years. There's about 50, 55 of us there. And we make MR and VR games. So over the years, we've made games like Drop Dead The Cabin, Drop Dead Dual Strike. We did Warhammer Battle Sister, which was the first made for VR Warhammer 40,000 game. And Last Stand as well, which came out last year. We've also got a game called Street Gods, which is out in a few weeks' time. So yeah, go and check that one out when it comes out. But today we're going to talk about Just Dance. So the agenda for the get together is I'm going to talk through the approach we took to how we reinvented the game alongside Ubisoft Paris. I'm going to talk about the pillars that we established to really give the game a solid foundation within the franchise. And then I'm going to use those pillars as kind of headers for the different areas of development as we go through it. At the end, I've got a few sort of slides that pull together a load of danger zones, lessons that are useful, hopefully, for anybody who's in VR or sort of XR development. And hopefully there should be a good mix of stuff for all disciplines. So it's not going to be a very techie talk. I'm going to talk about design. I'm going to talk about art. I'm also going to talk about little bits of code. So, fact about Just Dance. For those of you who don't know about Just Dance, it's the best-selling music franchise worldwide, believe it or not. It's started in 2009 with Just Dance for the Wii, and that actually came as a spin-off from Raymond Rabbit's sort of mini game that was in one of the games there. And since then, there have been over 30 versions of the game, and it sells over 90 million units worldwide. So it obviously has really big, really massive appeal worldwide. So where was it when we started working with Ubisoft Paris? And it's worth sort of saying initially the relationship we had with Ubisoft Paris. Absolutely fantastic studio. They are the people who originated Just Dance, and they wanted to do a VR version of the game and realized they didn't really know how to do that. And so we started working with them, and it was an absolutely fantastic experience, one of the best experiences I've had of working with another party on a game. So that was really brilliant. And we started when they were preparing Just Dance 2023. And then that was the first game that they developed in Unity. So before that, Just Dance was built in their own proprietary engine and was getting a little bit creaky. And so they ported it across into Unity using UI Toolkit. And most of the systems they built were entirely new at that point. So the game on consoles is almost entirely 2D. And the maps are streamed in video content. So when I say maps, that's what Just Dance refer to as levels or songs. So if I say maps, that's what I mean. And also if I say coaches, that's the dancer that you follow. They've got their own language for everything. And they also talk about the dance verses, which are the places where the dances take place. And control for the game at that point is via a mobile app or also by the Joy-Cons if you've got the the Switch version. And a huge part of the game is the social aspect. As you see in the image there in the corner there, it's about getting together with people, dancing, having fun. It's not a very competitive game, Just Dance, in terms of raw score. So a lot of dancing games can be really harsh, very much like you've got to hit this, got to hit this. Now, Just Dance is, you can get competitive at it, but actually what they really want, and one of the foundations of the game, is they want everybody to dance. Hence, that's the name, Just Dance. They want to enable people to dance and to make a safe space and a place where people can enjoy dancing. And that works really, really well. So, really great place to start from. However, is a 2D engine. And so I think we went in thinking Unity, hey, great, brilliant. We can use loads of that. We'll reuse lots of the elements. And we found out almost everything we had to start from scratch. And that's because VR, we needed it to be in 3D. And so very, very little actually got carried over from the Unity port. So where are we starting from with VR? Well, VR headsets. There's a lovely picture here. I'll put this up here mainly because every time I go to events with VR, they always have a picture of somebody in a VR headset, and it's nearly always like 10 years out of date. And so I thought I'd go 30 years out of date for this one. So if anybody who used this, this was quite an early VR headset. But it's one of the limitations of VR. You've got a heavy thing on your head, depending on which one you've got on there. So it's big, it's heavy, it's it's not great to move around in. Likewise, it shuts you out from the world, so you're smacking into things. So again, that's another limitation that we're having to look at and we're having to start from. You've got controllers in both hands, so again, harder to express, harder to dance when you've got controllers in the hands. And also, you very rarely have co-located VR headsets. You don't tend to be in the same living room with somebody else in VR. Sometimes, but usually only the real VR geeks. And so it's the opposite of the social experience of what Just Dance is supposed to be. So we needed to look at what are the advantages of VR? What can we do that you can't do on the console game? So we're not trying to replace it, it's something different. And so lockdown and COVID showed us that actually people can be social in VR. There's a really big spike in people hanging out in VR. VR chat massively grew during that time, and many other games. And so we can then make the game so much more in 3D. We can immerse the player in that music. We can surround them with amazing visuals. We can bring things out of that flat screen. And that's the really exciting thing that VR gives us. And I think hopefully those of you here, because you're into VR, I think it's such a massive potential we can see. And so you can feel like you're in that world. And it's worth saying, Just Dance has a world. For those who don't know, there is a lore master. And there is a lore of Just Dance that runs all the way through, and there's interrelated characters and everything. So it's a world that people want to get into. You can also express who you want to be in that digital space. Because we're a totally digital and a totally digital social space, you can be an avatar in however you want to look. And likewise, when we've got controllers, we've got controllers in our hands, but we've got two controllers. That allows us to do another level of tracking, which you can't do with the single controller on the standard version. So we came together and we defined these game pillars. So these are aspects of the game we tried to reinvent via VR. So social space was about meetings with friends in VR. We wanted to create a recreation of your living room, but also a place where you go and meet people who are into dancing, and you can just hang out together. We wanted to take that Just Dance gameplay, the classic gameplay that's been around since 2007, and think about how we spatialize that. How do we make the most of the space around the player? And how do we make sure that the music surrounds you and immerses you and takes you to another place? Avatar presence. This is about being able to express who you are. You can be who you want to be in that space. And then lastly, vibrant visual world. The visual world of Just Dance is so colorful and so various. And what we wanted to do was recreate that in VR headset. So let's talk about social space. Some pictures here. These aren't from Just Dance, in case anyone was wondering. This is going back to a game we made called Battle Sister. Just having, does anybody here play Battle Sister? No, I was going to say, good. I salute you if you had done, because we did a multiplayer mode in Battle Sister, and it really wasn't very good. It's often a nightmare, and when we started developing Battle Sister, multiplayer was an afterthought. We thought it was something we could just tack on afterwards. We didn't resource it well enough. I think we put one coder on it who didn't really have enough equipment. And ultimately, we set it up, high server costs. It was a bit of a disaster, really. We were coming from a place of failure. And so what we said from day one was multiplayer needed to be at the heart of development. We wanted social to be key to the game. And that meant assigning specialists, getting people who really knew multiplayer in the team, not trying to just bodge it together. We took the time, we gave them the time to research different ways we could implement it within the game. So we investigated lots of different solutions, plugins, and we took the time to find out what was going to work rather than just rushing to try and get to prototype. We equipped them with the headsets and the machines needed to actually do the job. So many times I see this in game studios where we try and scrimp and save. And if you've got somebody who's doing multiplayer, they need to have 2 PCs. They need to have 2 headsets. I know they're expensive, hard to get, but actually it makes a huge difference. And you need to ideally have more than one person so they can test. And what we insisted on early on was functionality early on. And so we got the team involved as well. And so there was a lot of this going on in the studio. Lots of people with VR headsets dancing around. And so it's very important to make a safe space where people know that they can be in a headset and not get filmed and shown on a big screen somewhere in the future. And so what do we end up with? We ended up using Photon Fusion. Photon guys are out obviously in the expo. And we used the Photon Fusion shared mode using relayed P2P. And it was a shared authority model, and it worked fantastically for us. It was really affordable option for us at scale. And it allowed us to do things like team session management with seat reservation, which we wouldn't really expect without an expensive back end normally. Our individual peers have got authority over many network objects, like the toys, the Danceverses, Dance City Manager instances, and also their own avatars. And then we use Photon Chat as a session-independent communication layer as well. So all integrated within there. Something we found which was really useful is that we could also send smart messages via Photon Chat as well, which meant that it simplified our data packing across the game. So ultimately, that meant that we were able to do 18 players in our main social space, which for those of you who work on Quest is pretty good. Not great for PC, but on a standalone headsets is a really great thing. And in main gameplay, we had 6-player dance versus as well, which has parity with the console game. We had VoIP, we've got blocking and friend systems, and then emoji-based chat for strangers. We have 2 different concepts of multiplayer within Just Dance. We've got the apartment where you hang out with your friends. That's a private space where you can just bring people into your space. You can chat with them. You have VoIP with them. Then if you go into Dance City, there's everybody else, and you can only chat with them using emojis. That's basically to safeguard our users. We know we're a very family-friendly game, and so we then have a layer of friends system underneath that, which allows us to let people have VoIP afterwards. And ultimately, it was a very, very low cost for a very, very high CCU, and so far has been very, very stable. We've had almost no issues over a year being out in the market. Thousands of players, very, very few. So I'm going to move on now to talk about the immersive Just Dance gameplay. So Just Dance the maps are created in an interesting way. I think when I first approached the game, I thought it was going to be perhaps more sophisticated than it is. The maps at the moment are created with dancers in costumes in front of green screen. It's filmed and composited into a background. So this is Stop This Fire, which might have some sound. Let's find out. No, maybe not. That's fine. Oh, no, it's not going to work. So Stop This Fire is a map that we actually made during Just Dance VR. So we have 3D elements within there, but ultimately it's a video composited over a background and then with some camera angles added in. So that's not great for us because all we've got is a flat video to start from. Oh, there we go. There's some sound. Little snippet of the song. It's a great song. It's also the song that doesn't need licensing, so hence why we're using it. So you can see here, this is the flat screen version. You can see how the UI is as well, flat screen along the bottom there, and we've got up the top there the flat two of 6 players. and on the left there, the star bar as well, that's recording how everybody's doing. So we need to take that and we need to work out how to make that work in VR. So we thought, well, could we mocap? We did a whole load of costings and basically motion capturing all those dancers was way out of budget. We looked at, could we cut the videos up? So they're already composited. So could we pull those apart? And you can see in the image there that that was our initial concept, was to take the background videos, to push them back, put them on a curved UI, to bring the coach forwards into your space, and then to bring the UI out into the space as well. We had elements from the backgrounds which would come out and around you, but ultimately it was about having this super TV basically in your apartment. So this is the very first prototype we built. It's pretty rough, it's fair to say. But this is about really our process. One thing that Unity, and I suspect a lot of you, we're all Unity users here, is it's so easy to get things up and running and testing. This is hours of work where we're dropping video players into VR, into the space, and just being able to play with the tools there, seeing what screen size works. Do you want, when you're playing Just Dance in VR, for the coach to be the same size as you? And we had loads of different ways of trying. Do we want to go even bigger? And so this just allowed us to do that, just scrolling around. The avatar there is a Ready Player Me avatar that we just chucked in really quickly and just allowed us to play around with different features. One thing early on we thought we wanted to have was a curved UI. And so we implemented a curved UI plugin and regretted it all the way to the end of development, where we couldn't get rid of it after then. And we didn't use it in the end properly. So the apartment. So the idea behind the game was you would choose your songs from a giant TV in an apartment, and so we're recreating the experience of being in an apartment with your friends. So this is our concept art. Looks great on a big screen. Gabby, our concept artist, did these. So big TV, bring it together, have lots of toys. You can just hang out, have fun. It's the ultimate hanging around with your friends in a living room. We also have the idea of these theme rooms as well. So when you go out from the apartment, you go to sort of mini nightclubs, and they have a continual playlist going of songs and maps. And there would be a place where you could just hang out with other people who aren't your friends. And it's just somewhere you can go and hang out. And so we have this as a space club, which is one of our concepts. And you'd have some of the characters from the game as well coming out into that world. And so this is where we got to. I'm sorry about the quality of this video. Unfortunately, there isn't anything else from there. This is the Billie Eilish track, Therefore I Am. And you can see that's kind of where we got to. So we had the characters coming out. We had the sort of metal blobs that were coming out into your space as well. You'll see on the side there, we've got the UI, the pictos, starting to curve round in front of the player. And also the popping out the rest of the UI just above into there. That's such a bad quality video. Maybe don't play that quality video on a TV that big. So we did that, and we thought it was okay, but it wasn't that great. So we chatted with Ubisoft, and we said, we think this isn't as immersive as it could be. It wasn't making the most of VR. It was like playing on a big TV in a living room. And so at this point, this is about halfway through development, we decided to pivot. And so we changed the way we were going to adapt the game entirely. So rather than playing it within the living room becomes just the hub. And then when you select individual maps, you go into a recreation of the dance verse. So we would fully spatialize the environment, recreating the map locations in real time. And also the UI as well, everything was very 2D, everything was very flat, everything was very square. And we just felt it wasn't making the most. So this is the bit I'm slightly terrified about. I'm going to try and go into this. Let's find out if it's going to behave for me. It's gone to sleep. So, is it going to wake up? Find out. Wakey, wakey. That's not looking good, is it? There we go. Give it a chance to catch up again on the cast. See, someone said you're mad to live cast during a talk, and I think they may have been correct. We'll give it a sec. There we go. It's going to catch up. No. Awkward silence. Talk amongst yourselves. Come on. No, okay. I think we'll move on without that because, so what I was going to do was I was going to take us through looking at Danceverse and our UI. What I'll do is I might leave it on there and it will probably catch itself up in a second because that's really nice to watch, isn't it? Great. Typical. Oh well. Jump back over to him. So what I was going to do is take us through the dance verses, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to move on next to the next slide, which is on here. No, it's just it. Every single run through is fine, of course. So yeah, let's talk about the UI. But we'll come back to the dance verses in a minute because I've got another slide on that. So the UI, we'd started off with a very square UI, and one of the rules we started looking at was about affordance. So do things do what you think they're going to do in the UI, and reactability and sort of reactivity for how you're sort of moving the controller. And we came up with this radial menu on the left here, which is called which is named after Dibby. So we named the disco ball, who is in the Just Dance lore. This disco ball flies around loads of the levels and loads of the maps. And so he became the heart. Actually, sorry, they became the heart of the game UI. And the way it works is you have a very simple radial menu on the left stick. Oh, hang on, looking like it might be. It's woken up. Hey, there we go. Let's try it again. There we go. Ooh. Never try it. So, here we go. I've just done the intro, and so we've got, here's the radial menu. So, it's basically a radial menu, bring up with the A or the B, the Y or the B button. And it's a really simple radial menu that heads out from each of those segments. And it just is very quick. I've got haptics on all of these as well, so it's just clicking its way around, click, click, click. And what we found was this is a really fast way of doing UI, and we can bring that to wherever I want. So if I want to bring them over here, I can do. If I'm walking around, wherever I want to go, he will catch up. And so it just means that wherever we're going, I can pick him up. So within the radial menu, we also found then that having an additional menu for larger areas of information, you can then pop that out into a panel just for the more complex stuff. But that really quick access menu was really key to doing stuff. Likewise, for things like spawning, so we've got toys and emojis. We wanted that to be a really quick system as well. And so we came up with this, which is a very quick radial system as well. So this is just on the right stick. Push it up. I can assign different emojis to all these different areas. If I want to do that. If I want to get myself a basketball, it's great. And you'll see here, that's the authoritative debug menu that I left on here for this. No chance. Zero chance. So let's head into the map now, see if this is going to work for us. Is it still behaving on the screen? Yeah? No, it's lagging again. Oh, it's lagged again. Oh well. Did think that ball throwing might have got more of a cheer. So there we go. See, never try and do this. So tell you what, we'll leave that to wake itself up again, because I love technology. So we'll jump back across. So I don't know how visible that was because I couldn't see anything because I was in a VR headset. But yeah, hybrid panels, and then we have our emotes and toys on the individual panels as well. If that one comes back to life, no, it's not. It's going slow again. So let's talk about avatars. So alongside multiplayer, avatar systems are also hell. It's fair to say the meta avatar system at that point, sorry meta people if you're in here, but the meta avatar system at that point was in a transition period, let's call it. And so we decided not to use that. The original plan was to use those meta avatars, but we needed a robust solution which was going to get us where we needed to go in the time frame that we had. And so we moved to Ready Player Me. I don't know if any of you have used it, but yeah, this was what the meta avatars were going to look like. Yeah, not so good. And this is what the Ready Player Me ones look like. So we created outfits that were based on the coaches as well as collectibles within the game. Players can also just dress however they want within the Ready Player Me system. It's a really great system to integrate. It has its own character creator with loads of presets within there already. We reskinned all that within our game. Very quick to do. Loads of pre-designed outfits, which were very helpful. And we work quite closely with Ready Player Me to refine that system for XR as well. Because you've got controllers with where you're doing quite a lot of control of the hands, we introduced an additional twist bone into the hand. We refined the skeleton as well to make it far more optimal. Optimized texture usage to get those draw calls down. And also it had really good OpenXR compatibility as well for Final IK and OpenXR solutions. And so, yeah, we used those avatars and they've been really rock solid again. People seem to find them really easy to use. So the last pillar today I'm going to look at is the vibrant visual world. So show you some of those 360 things I was going to show you on the headset there. You'll see here that the world of Just Dance is really variable between every map. They art direct each individual map, but it's always vibrant. It's always full of color. Not always, actually. Sometimes you get some black and white maps. But you've got things like, Wake Me Up here, which is atmospheric, sort of realistic cowboy world. We've got Little Party, which is abstract Art Deco forms, much more sort of motion graphics based. Love Me Again, where it really just goes down to giant text that we just bring up and around the player. And all of this stuff we're doing in timeline. And we tend to assign individual artists to each map. They would completely sometimes recreate the entire map from scratch. Sometimes we would have some source assets so we could work from. But it gave individual artistic control. And Volart as well, and Tusa. So we completely surround the player, though, with those worlds. So I'm going to move on to talk about Dance City a little bit as well. Dance City is our central hub. This is some of the first concepts we had. The idea behind it was to be a kind of Times Square, a place where everybody can get together. There'd be loads of music going on, lots of dancing. People can meet up with friends. We did a lot of concepting of this, basing it on part Disney World, part sort of Las Vegas, part Shanghai. Lots of color, lots of vibrancy, making it a place that people want to hang out. We wanted it to have lots of interactive elements as well. So there's places you can play basketball, sort of ball pit areas where you can just hang out, have that very sort of passive gameplay between friends and between players. And ultimately, this is where it ends up. One thing which is key, though, to making this is we needed it to be really performative. We've got 18 skinned avatars on a standalone headset, mobile GPU set, of course. And so we needed to keep the world low poly and particularly low draw calls because it's VR, and so it's always draw calls. So the majority of the world here, probably 80%, is created with a single gradient material, which can be mapped over very large areas. It's a big advantage of the fact that we've got a sort of simplified art style. I'll bring it back again. And then we add a few hero pieces as well in there to bring some character. Surrounding the players, there's all these hoarding boards. Each individual hoarding board is a version of the song. So you can go up, you can just click on a hoarding board and jump straight into that song. Somebody else does the same. You're matched together into the same matchmaking. Another thing that's worth saying with the optimization of that level is that the UI was a huge cost. So every map that we had on every hoarding board has a associated leaderboard, and alongside the leaderboard would be a series of stats for every map. And that very, very quickly added up. We have 25 maps duplicated multiple times around that world. And so bringing all that down was a massive hit. I think the aggregate of all those draw calls was huge. So just being able to fade it out and doing lots of occlusion culling was key. Likewise, lighting-wise, we used Bakery as a lighting solution there. It was really great for sort of bouncing lights and for that sort of really soft-edged emissives to give us that really soft look all the way through the level. So I think I said this before about the dance verses. Yeah, it's individual artists were given individual maps to run through, and what we found was there's an amazing amount you can get away with things like video. So all of our coaches are just a 2D video with camera facing plane, and actually it works. Most of the time you've got it's facing you, so it's obviously not facing any of the other players within the game. And we use imposter systems for the sort of backing dancers as well, and so that allowed us to get away with a lot of stuff from those videos. And likewise, a small amount of animated elements using the particle system allowed us to get a lot done. Some of our levels are almost entirely particle systems as well. Bad Liar by Selena Gomez that we have within the game is almost entirely particles. We have about one mesh within there, and everything else is just a series of the classic particle system as well, the Shuriken particle system. So it's really powerful for making 3D environments. So I'm going to move on now to learnings and pitfalls. I've got a new one to add on here, which is never try and demo VR on a stage. So that's a really important one. But we're going to go to the sickness fallacy. So obviously, people do get sick in VR. We know this, and it affects people in lots of different ways. But one thing I'd say is if you're working with a team of people in creating a game where there's a potential for sickness, test and try it. Because there's so many times where you can have a conversation with the dev team, and they'll go, it's definitely going to make people sick, so we shouldn't do it. And what we found with the game was there were lots of those, and we tried it, and it didn't make people sick. And so there's lots of things where you think it's going to, and obviously there will probably be, at the extreme ends, somebody maybe who will. But it's often nowhere near as bad as you think it's going to be. So just Don't Stop Me Now is one of our maps. It has a scrolling world that goes through there. Everybody said that was going to make everybody sick. And so we shouldn't do it. Definitely shouldn't do it. We need to completely redesign the map. We said, well, let's just try it. Let's put it in, do some tests. And this is where Unity is great for doing those quick tests. Put it in there, no problem at all. We haven't had a single complaint about being sick on that map, unless someone else is here. Maybe there might be. And it's the same with it can't be done in VR. There's lots of times where everybody says VR, you can't do that. You can't have camera shake. Well, you can. You just have to be careful, and you have to test it, and you have to try it, and you have to mitigate it for it. And so I think with dev teams, I always encourage people to try things. Let's try it. Let's have a go. If it doesn't work, we'll come up with something else. Don't dismiss it out of hand straight away. I think it's really important to build with capture in mind. It's great if you can integrate live and capture packages like that, allowing content creators to work their way through the game and make some great content, make their lives easy. If it's very difficult to capture your game and make it look good, which it always is hard with VR, then I would say, put in the live tools that allow them to put the cameras in and put the positions where and get good quality footage. Another pitfall that I think is worth avoiding is aiming too low. The Quest 3 is actually a really, really great headset. It's powerful. We support Quest 2 on ours as well. But there's so many times where people are aiming very, very low. I mean, we've got obviously games like Gorilla Tag, absolutely amazing game, but has a very, very simple graphic start. We don't have to be that simple for all our games. We can go much, much more advanced. So the game we're doing at the moment, Street Gods, that one has bloom, we've got HDR, we've got loads of color grading going on in that as well. We can push these headsets further than we think we can. And last one on there as well is you need space to test. This is really, really important if you've got doing a dance game, but but make sure you've got enough space to play. The amount of people who've got smacked hands and things like that, I would say just make sure you've got that space. So lessons as we're coming to land now. The team that we have for Just Dance VR, we're an amazing team. We assembled it, almost the whole team from scratch as we built up Soul Assembly as a studio, and look for people who are passionate. Look for people who love VR and are really excited about what you're trying to make. We wanted to make sure that everybody loved it. There's Miguel, our lead designer there, who's been wonderfully shamed with his dancing skills. I have many, many more gifts like this. You need to play in build on device. The engine hides so much. You'll always get at least one person who wants to put in the FPS controls and just wants to play in engine. And that works. You know, for some people, that's all they can do. But what I'd say is, as much as possible, if you can play in build on device, then that's where spatial design really happens, because that's the only way you can design spatially, is by having it in headset, moving things around, trying things, having space, understanding the space that you've got within the VR world. And also making sure the team can build as well. All of our artists, all our QA, all our designers can build the game. They know how to do builds. They know how to get their work into builds. This sounds like a really simple thing and a really basic thing for games development, but it's massive difference. We used to have it where it was always queuing up behind, can you make me a build? Can you just do me a build? Can you make me this build? If you can enable your entire team to do that, and that means also getting headsets for everybody on the team. That should be a prerequisite. And so ultimately, I think it's about playing together as well. We used to have regular fortnightly build reviews together. You'll see here is one of the test ones where someone decided to put in a whole series of plants instead of avatars. That was quite a good version of the game. But those regular reviews were really great times. We'd often have the entire review in Dance City in headset, because we've got the VoIP, we've got it all within there. Only for 18 players in, unfortunately. But that's a really good thing. And it's easy to forget that. So in recent game that I've been developing, we got out of the habit of reviewing the game together, and it was a massive loss. And when we put it back in again, everybody on the team was like, why did we stop reviewing the game together? It's crazy. Because ultimately those great ideas come from playing together and encouraging each other and making it the best game it can be. And so there's the lovely dev team there, Ubisoft Paris there, and also Soul Assembly. And that's our launch party. And yeah, that's kind of where we got to. So thank you very much. Yeah, it's... Sorry for the technical problems. It's kind of a bit frustrating, it's fair to say. I think we've got plenty of time for questions. So yeah, if anybody's got any questions, don't